Boom, boom, boom. Welcome to Franchise Mode. I know we had a little bit of a week off, everyone. I'm sorry. I was in Miami at Roll Loud. Follow our TikTok at Malk and Ron Network to see the videos. Very lit time. But today I'm bringing you all another banger. I got a friend from the Midwest coming on. Talk about his team, some analytics, and some journalism. Please stay tuned to see who that special guest is. Out. All right, so our final segment probably going to be our most highly contested one. We're just going to jump into analytics. I've been getting tagged in a lot of stuff. PFF good, PFF bad. Why you use PPP? Why you use these different grading systems? Why you look at Raptor? Why you look at this? Why you look at that? So I want to ask you, Jordan, do you use analytics in any of your articles?
Yeah, I think if I had to rank like a football, basketball, baseball, like the top three,
Uh-huh.
I think it would go. I ignore the most in basketball, but I still use quite a bit. In baseball, I use the most,
You
I
have to.
think. And,
Yeah.
and because I hate to say it's a numbers game, but like there's not as much feel in baseball. You can quantify just about anything and make a good case for it. So I think baseball, especially with like Fangraphs, dude, and like baseball perspective, like there's so much data out there that if you don't understand it, because when I first started, I was an ERA guy, I was a batting average guy, and like there's a fine like on
Yeah.
base percentage isn't an analytic or anything, but like advanced stats definitely in baseball, then some analytics. For basketball, I'm kind of in between. Like I'm not big into Raptor or offensive rating or defensive rating
Yeah.
or box plus minus stuff like that, but synergy percentile rankings and
Love the synergy stuff.
yes, synergy is great. Points per possession, like extract per 100 stats, true shooting percentage, percentages on different like types of shots, like catch and shoot or pull up or like individualized stuff, contextualizing the mid range, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I lean about halfway in basketball, probably 90% in baseball. Football, I
Yeah.
really, I'm probably like 20% for football. Like I'll go to next gen stats and look at like depth of target and like depth of drop and
Yeah.
like speed and yards per route run, stuff like that. But then like R, like all those R charts and EPA and stuff like that, I'm still kind of not resisting, but like not understanding yet. So
It's a
that's a me
lot.
problem, but I'll get there.
Yeah, the NFL is, I think, the hardest one because so much changes on every play and so many
Yep.
players, and you don't know the play and all different type of stuff. Versus baseball is very stable,
Yep.
extremely stable. Same positions. It's, I mean, you have the shift, but besides shifting and stuff like that, like it ain't too much changing. It's a very stable sport, and the metrics are very stable year after year after year. The NFL is harder because one, coaching is like such a different, even when you just change the scheme for a player. We talked about Vanjo before we got on here versus like even like a like like Staley or Cal Shanahan and McVay, and even if they're similar, like scheme changes that. You don't know all the play calls. Sometimes you know the assignments, but going on all that, I think I still use it anyway in
Sure.
all of that stuff. But I think the difference is, but people don't get, you have to watch and use it. You can't
Yep.
do like you can't just say, I'm just gonna do that. And I didn't see this game. Like, nah, because
It's
you're missing
backwards for
contacts.
people.
You're
I
missing
think they
contacts.
do. Some people use the analytics as the base, then the film to contextualize it. I think it should be you go to the film first, then you
Yes.
support it with like so like if you see Patrick Mahomes like the PFF thing when they said and PFF gets a bad rap. I have my kind of bones to pick with them, but I generally
Yeah.
do think they do good work and it's subjective, so that's tough too. But like Mahomes
He
is
was
a one
15th.
read quarterback. Yes, like all that stuff,
Yeah.
and he's 15th or whatever. Then PFF tweeted out today, Mahomes is first since 2017 in everything after his first reads. Like stuff like
That's why you
that
can't take it that
helps.
seriously. That's
Exactly.
my thing. Like, especially with the PFF. Like he's 15th, but they also had him ranked like second in EPA per like play.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
like
like,
pick a lane. Pick a lane.
so that's what makes it tough. And then also you kind of got to find that, I guess, the analytics, especially in football, that you like to look
Yeah.
at. Like you have to pick a couple. Like, okay, I like this stat. Like I hate when Skip brings up the QBR thing. Like,
It's so annoying.
it's really annoying. That's his thing, which I get because he's stuck to it, and he's gonna dig into that stat, which I can respect. You picking what you like, and you're gonna base. I don't care if it's my player, if it's not my player. I'm gonna dig into that stat. I do get that to an extent, but like, bro, like it's like the PR thing in NBA. Like, okay, like it was cool at first, but then once we find out that there's an issue and we fix the issue, you can't like go back to using something that's quote unquote outdated. That's the thing with analytics. Okay, now I know we got someone into it, but just I want you to explain more about what do you think about the PFF thing. Now you covered the Chiefs. Let's just go straight with the NFL. So you cover the Chiefs. You watch every Chiefs game. You're like, okay, I think Mahomes did this and that. I think Tyreek Hill did this and that. How do you look at, I guess, the PFF_Chiefs Twitter page? Like, how does that affect your take on the game? You know what I'm saying?
It kind of, I hate to admit this, but I usually use PFF when it fits my agenda, and then when it doesn't, I'm just like, whatever, PFF, whatever. Like, I get, and I've watched. I think Brett Coleman did a really good video where he said he talked to PFF and like
amazing.
He brought, he's awesome, and he does his version of like advanced tracking too, and that's great. He'll go to PFF, and he said like, I charted this many missed tackles, or this was the play I thought it was. Blah blah blah. PFF had something different, and like the flip side, then it goes back to the former player versus media debate. Can someone be trained who wasn't a player to actually know what's going on? I think they can, but like at the same time, you aren't in the locker rooms, you don't have the playbook. So if you think this guy's running if this guy's doing a hook curl and then this guy misses his assignment, or he gets passed off, or are you like zone matching, like what are you running? You don't always know, or like who is intended to be here at what time, you don't always know. So I think PFF on a broad scale kind of sums up the debate. Like, is it the Bible? No. Is it perfect? No. But can you use it for context? Yes, I think. And there's no perfect way to make it objective. It's a very subjective thing. But that doesn't mean it's like not valuable. I think PFF does have a place. It's just one of many places. It's like basketball. You need different analytics to make your whole case, and PFF for football is one of those.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I don't think it should be your only, like if I'm coming to you the argument like, hey, this person had this grade, that's your only.
It shouldn't be a crutch.
Argument.
Too many people use it as a crutch.
Yeah, that's annoying. Now, if you include that along with maybe yardage or, I don't know, EPA per play, or you found this or you saw that, then you're using that to support your argument, which that's fine. We all remember fifth grade when they said, when you write a paragraph, you need a topic sentence, you need something to support your argument. It's a topic sentence, L. Like that shit can't be that, but it can be, I think, a supporting argument. It's interesting because I've interviewed a couple people from PFF, and they break it down like crazy, like the grading system and everything. It's a lot for a non-data scientist to get. As someone that's can't do, I'm not gonna say I can't, but doesn't do any coding or anything of the sort, that's what makes it more difficult to understand. Now, it's really cool when you have someone that you know that does that stuff for you, or does the stuff that you trust. That's why I think PFF can come in for the casual fan. They can do a lot of that legwork that you probably can't do with the computer science stuff for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you can use that again as a crutch, but it gives you some background on your favorite guy. So I think that's my favorite thing that they do, is they kind of do a lot of the hard legwork that I know I couldn't do on my own.
Exactly.
That's my.
And they track it.
And they track it. Something I refuse to do. Like, I'm just not doing it. I'm sorry. Like, that's a lot of your time. Like, a lot of hours per day. So I get it. Like, I get it. Unless I was getting paid to, of course, because that's different. But but to do it like just like for fun, for the podcast, that's a lot of hours. So more respect to them. Okay. Now, we kind of got into it a little bit with the baseball, football, basketball thing, but how much do you think it, like, analytics, do you think it means significantly more in other sports? You kind of said how you use it. How do you think like the community views it big per sport, since you're somebody that edits for multiple.
Yeah, I think it is in baseball, definitely more accepted for sure. Like, I think baseball is just light years ahead, which ironically, because like the game is not, it's like light years behind. I think the content creators, the journalists, the writers, they all embrace it. I think a lot of players embrace it. The managers are beginning to embrace it. NBA, I think NBA might be, from a player coaching perspective, front office perspective, possibly last. I think NFL, there's just specific roles on teams, and teams are aware of it, and it seems to be more distributed. But I think in season, it's hard to tell the difference. Like in season, the NFL is going to have a ton of stuff coming out from PFF. In basketball season, there's going to be a ton of accounts or draft accounts or people who track analytics throughout the year. I think it seems like the arguments over analytics in football get the most heated, get the most traction. Sure. It's like from a Twitter perspective, it's the worst for football. Like definitely. I can't differentiate. Like I think baseball from a usage perspective is the best. I think basketball is probably second. NFL could be number one, but I think it's just lagging a little bit behind.
It's like you said, the heat. Like if you bring up Trayvon Diggs and like stats and yardage on Twitter,
it's a death wish.
It's a death wish. And it's like, bro, like I'm pretty. I think I consider myself a very like. Some people even consider me a pessimist about my own team.
Yeah,
I'm pretty like I just watch it and I'm like, okay, I like this, but this could have been better. If you bring up the yardage thing or this or that, it's like you said, a death wish on Twitter. And I'm pretty sure for you, for Chief stuff, if you bring up any Mahomes bad throw that was graded poorly, death wish. Like
I'm still getting crap from he objectively, and the numbers backed it up. His second half of the AFC Championship game is terrible. Like for any quarterback, it wasn't just bad for him. And people still get mad at me and are like, dude, you don't have anything to back that up. I'm like, I can pull any stat, quarterback rating, total QBR, PFF grade, any of that stuff, film analysis. I can pull up clips. It was bad. And like, I think from a fan perspective, people, it fits their narrative so they like it, or it doesn't fit their narrative so it doesn't. And from a usage standpoint, kind of, I'm trying to beat that out of myself. Like you can cherry pick stats and still paint a picture about a player, but it's the best when you do the whole thing and you include the good and the bad. I think people are often too guilty, and I do it, like I said, of cherry picking. That is probably the biggest problem with it, is cherry picking.
Okay, let's go off exactly what you just said. What do you think, when you think analytics goes too far? When does it go too far? People do it like in worst case scenarios.
When it doesn't compliment, you ask questions that only film can answer, or you realize you can't have a conversation it's just one-sided. When people think that the numbers are the law, pretty much, that's when it gets too far, and that happens pretty frequently. People do it with even basic stats, like this guy threw for more yards than this guy, he had more touchdowns, so he's a better player. And some people just don't think beyond that, and it's not an insult to their intelligence, it's just an insult to their ability to open their mind to something else. And I think that a lack of nuance is when it's too far.
Yeah, I've seen analytics go a little bit too far a couple of times. Mainly like we kind of been hitting that on nail when you're just trying to make that your only argument. It's really killed some like quote unquote like legendary players, like images like Carmelo, like Kobe. Like it's kind of because it's like it just isn't kind. Like
Kobe was in everybody's top 10, and then analytics started, and now Kobe's like, some people are like, Kobe's not a top 10 player. You're crazy. Even if you have like 3 or 5 or 6, they're like, that's way too high for Kobe. I'm like, dude, analytics killed it. AI is another good one.
Yeah, like, it's kind of killed them.
There's quarterbacks out there. I mean, Brett Favre got killed by analytics, stuff like that, where it's rough, man.
That's what I don't like. Now I understand it to an extent. We saw in baseball, it kind of maybe only because he's a Yankee, but Jeter, like everyone knew.
Yeah,
like, I'm not gonna say it was a little bit different because the defensive stuff, it was, come on, like if you're the worst though in something, like you're literally by the numbers was one of the worst ever. Like in the category, it probably, at least if you even if you weren't the worst, like by what people thought, you dang sure weren't good at that specific style of the game. I don't think it's hurt him as much. I think it's only because he's a Yankee, though. I think if he's any probably other team or if this comes out, he's probably getting like destroyed. Like, Jeter isn't as good as we thought he was, but he's still getting the ESPN. But literally, ESPN's doing a freaking ESPN Plus doc. Like after that was their number one promotion during the MLB All-Star Week. So it's like in some sports, it's killed players like Kobe. But then you have baseball where Jeter, the stats weren't kind at all. It didn't hurt his legacy, I don't think at all. To be honest, it's still probably been going up. Like, it seems like he's even more like an untouchable guy now than then. Like you might have some people arguing, well, this or that, but overall, like his numbers retired. You go to the Yankees game, which I went to. Everyone has a number, has his jersey on. People still put him in their top 5, top 3 shortstops ever. But then again, in basketball, you have Iverson going down, Melo going down. Football, we have Brett Favre going down. Some people coming at even like a Big Ben and people like that, like those kind of gunslinger mentality QBs, like
or propping up at Rodgers and saying he's the best. And like I've been there before because he's the most efficient. But like,
they've got
I think we've even had this conversation before. Yeah. Like it goes both ways, but like when it gets extreme, it gets extreme. That's the easiest way to explain it, I guess.
Yeah. He's gotten me. Rodgers actually gets me every single year, and I fall for it every year.
Same.
It's not that he's not an amazing player. It's that we just don't give him like the Lamar Flack thing. Like they're both A+ in the regular season. Gonna probably get you 11 wins if they play with a like sandbag. But when you get to that playoff game, it's just something that's just not going right every time. And even though with Rodgers specifically, like the defense, man, you can't keep giving them 30-point games. I get it. But like we got to get some wins in there. And it's like, even though the interceptions are low, I think we're seeing with the Mahomes and Josh Allen and the Herberts, doesn't necessarily mean that's a good thing necessarily. Because it means you're taking less chances with the ball. You're trying to throw in less tight windows. When people were trying to paint the image that he was just better at that throw than everyone else, when realistically, I think that's what another good stat, which is the turnover worthy throw.
I was about to say that
comes
too.
In. That's a stat I like because it's every year it's consistent. And just because, like, if someone drops your interception, does that mean technically, I guess it didn't count the same, but like next year they might not drop that same pass. Are you a worse player now? No, you're the same exact players. This year they just caught more of your bad throws. So he still has that too. It's like he's not. So that's the thing that's got me about Rodgers. So that was my little rant about the Aaron Rodgers thing. But I think, like we say, analytics is kind of, in some sports it's hurt the greats, and in some sports kind of prop them up. Do you have any final statements on that?
No, I'm with you. And even Patrick Mahomes, to touch on quarterbacks, the first couple of years, fantastic interception luck. He made a lot of turnover-worthy throws that were dropped. Then last year, he really didn't even make many turnover-worthy throws, but he had a bunch of deflected interceptions. He had a bunch of bad luck. Yeah, people ran the wrong routes, like stuff like Tyreek Hill fell down like 3 times and it got picked off, where when he let go of the ball, he was upright. So like that stuff varies and luck is real. And that's one thing that I don't think you can ever quantify is luck. You can try to, but like regression to the mean, feel for the game, momentum, I think is real. I'm a firm believer in that, despite what some numbers may indicate. Some analytics folks think momentum is just some made up thing. I think it's real. So there are instances where it goes too far. I think we talked about being in the middle on analytics. I think I'm there. The problem is if you're in the middle, you get accused of being like an analytics darling or like nerd or what, when really there are like hashtag nerds out there who are like way too far into it. And there are also people who dismiss it. So a happy medium is not always a bad thing.
Yeah, I think too, probably is like we kind of got into our earlier points, being like somewhat of a true journalist. You kind of can't be too far into anything.
Exactly.
Unless you work for one of those sites, and then they give you that leeway to be too far into it. Like, I can't lean too far into numbers, one, because no one cares, truthfully. If you're not working for a PFF or a Synergy or a site like that, or you're Brent Coleman on YouTube, unless you're doing that style, like no one is going to care to read or watch your stuff. And also, you don't really have to go that in depth for people to understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah. No, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. While again, I want to thank you, Jordan, for coming on. I'm going to drop all Jordan's social medias in the comments below. He's been killing the game. We've known each other for like 2 years now, I'm going to say.
It's been a minute. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
at
a
least
couple at
two,
least, man.
2.5, at least 2 NFL seasons, I can say.
Yeah, yeah.
It's our third season of probably knowing each other. So that's exciting. Again, glad everything that you're doing. Again, I'm going to drop all social medias. And again, thank you all for listening to Franchise Mode.